Huge shout out to my supporting patrons and Fine Tool partners. I couldn't do it without you. Thanks a lot.
Now in SketchUp, dovetails are hard to make, but I'm going to take you into the computer right now and show you how to make dovetails that look just like this. Rounded over, nice and smooth, and they look like they came fresh off of your dovetail jig. Stay with me, it's going to be fun. Boom! Dovetail drawers are one of the most beautiful type drawers that you can pull out of any cabinet. I myself, being a woodworker, go to a lot of kitchens to pull drawers out just so I can see what type of joinery there is. And now you have the ability to mock up kitchen drawers in your models, and that way you can show your client visually what they're going to look like before they even get them in their kitchen. So if this is your first time here, I want to welcome you. Please, if you like videos like this, Build or SketchUp, you can click the subscribe button now. Be notified anytime that I upload brand new content. I make build videos every 2 weeks and SketchUp videos every 2 weeks. So you guys will have something to watch each and every Saturday. I also plan on doing some tool review videos on my Tuesdays that I have SketchUp videos the following Saturday. So I'm going to upload a few more things of tools that I use in the shop and bring a little bit more content for you. So if you want to be a supporter of the show, you can head over to my Patreon page, sign up to be a supporter, and you'll get some free stuff along the way, not to mention 24-hour early access to videos that I post each and every week. And if you see me use any tools in this shop that you want to get your hands on, my Amazon store has them all. I've also got some new merch coming into my website store, so be sure and watch out for those. They're coming really, really soon. So let's head into the computer right now and I'll show you how to make these.
Okay, so you guys have made it this far with the drawers that we made with lock joints as well as the pocket screws. So let's get started. I'm gonna go back to my drawer over here. And after we're done with this episode, if you're doing this along with me, save it so that way you can pick right back up where we left off. So I'm going to make sure that my component, edit, hide rest of model is check marked because I'm going to mainly just mess with the drawer side. I really don't have a use for the bottom or the front backs or even the other side for that matter. So with that on, all I got to do is click into the component and it will hide everything but the active components that I'm messing with. Now I'm going to shorten up this drawer side about halfway down, and you'll see why I did that later. So one of the main objectives that we need to concern ourselves with is hiding the joinery that we created with the drawer bottom. We want the tails and the pins, both of them in conjunction, to hide that particular joint or groove so it looks like it never existed. So we're first going to lay out our tails over that area to ensure that it is hidden. So we're going to drop a couple of tape measure lines right in line with the opening of that dado. That is going to be the narrowest mark of the tail. So we'll drop some other ones on this face, so we'll have reference marks to go off of. Now, let's first come to the end grain and draw our first semicircle, which will be the narrowest part of the tail. We're going to use our 2-point arc function right there and start at the intersection and draw to the other intersection. And then on the red axis line, we're going to snap right there. You can kind of see it snap in place and drop it right there. Now this particular semicircle that we just made, we're going to move back into the board about 5/8 of an inch, but in order to do that I've got to get rid of this particular face so I can see inside the component. All I did was hide it to get it out of the way. So I'm going to highlight that face and I'm going to copy it because I can't move it otherwise. It just moves up and down like that. So I'm going to copy it instead. Along the green axis line, I'm going to type in 5/8 for 5/8 of an inch and let it go. Now I can get rid of the first semicircle that I drew. And now we're going to lay out our lines for the angulation of the dovetail itself. And the bit that I like to use is a 7-degree bit. So using our compass right up here, we're going to start at the very bottom of the tail, come out to the intersection there, drop, and draw a line that's 7 degrees off center. Do the same thing on this one, 7 degrees downward. And now we have the outline we're looking for, so we're just going to draw a line connecting those marks. Just like that. So now we have the outside profile of the tail, and now we're going to do our 2-point arc again and draw the semicircle and snap it along the red axis line right there. You'll be able to see it snap, so you'll know where it's at. Okay, so I have created 3 sides of the dovetail. Now we need to fill in the curvature of it. So I'm going to hide all of the faces of my drawer side so I can see all the way inside of it. All I'm doing is clicking the face and clicking H on my keyboard to hide it. Now if I zoom in to the dovetail sides that we created on the semicircles, you can kind of see there are sections of the semicircle that are kind of jagged. They change direction and have points. That's what we're going to use as reference to connect the inside portion of this dovetail. So using our line function, we're going to start at each point and draw and connect to the point of the bigger circle. And you can kind of see every time I do that, it fills in a piece at a time. So just do that until you have it all filled in. Okay. Now that it's all filled in, I'm just going to give it all the same color just by highlighting it, turning on my color bucket, selecting the same color of wood, and just clicking on those sections that need color. There we go. So now it all matches the existing wood that we have been using. Okay, I want to get rid of my guidelines. As you can see, they get a little confusing to look at. So now that I have the pin created, or the tail created, I'm going to highlight just that only. Make sure that that is the only thing you have highlighted, because what we're going to do is turn it into a component. So now that it's a component, I can unhide the rest of the drawer side, and you can see that it's a separate piece from the side itself. Alright, so now let's lay out some layout lines for where I want these to be. So the center of that one is 3/4. So let's drop this one the center at 3/4. Let's drop one in the center of the piece itself, which is right there. And then the center of these, let's just do this the easy way if you don't want to figure this out in your head. So half of 1 is 0.5, and then half of 13/16 is 13/32. And I can get rid of the half-inch line, so now that is completely centered. That's a quick way to figure center of something if you can't get it to snap. So do it again, 0.5, and then 13/32. Get rid of that extra line. And now we have our layout lines that will be exactly the same apart from each other. So copy the component, and lay them out just like that. Okay, let's draw a rectangle to establish the border of where the tails end and where the rest of the board is going to start. So I'm going to draw a layout line that touches the end of the tail right there, just as a reference. I'm going to do the same thing on top. Okay? So I'm going to come over here to the back side, using this point as my starting location. Turn my rectangle function on, and you can see that my green is highlighted, which is kind of snapping it in place, and I'm going to come down here to the very bottom of the board and drop a line. So that is how far back I need to push the rest of this scrap, except for the tails, back. Now, in order to make the tails part of the board, I need to explode all of these parts interiorly, so I can start erasing the lines where the tails touch the board. The reason I have to do this is because right now these tails are a component. They are separate from the drawer side. I want to combine them. So I'll need to highlight everything, including the tails. I have to do those separately. So by holding Shift and selecting the tails, I now have everything that's on this drawer side combined by exploding it. So now the tails are part of the drawer side, and all I have to do now is erase the line in between each one, and you can see that it's starting to combine them together. Okay? So I can't push and pull this back because it's not going to do it evenly. You can see that it's not pulling the angle, that 7-degree angle. It's not pulling it down. So instead of push and pulling, let's just erase each face. So select it and delete. Select, delete, select, delete. Just over and over and over. Now, if you are noticing, there is a problem with my select, delete right in here because there's not a defined border. So there's two ways you could go about this. You could grab your line tool and just make a line, make a line, make a line, and then you'll have a defined border. Or you can just highlight everything and then hit intersect faces with selection. Now I have a defined border line that the model has just basically thrown in there by itself, so I can now delete these faces, and you can see the border line has now appeared. So now you just need to get rid of these excess lines. I'm going to leave this these lines right here because that's part of my dado. So if I just erase that one, it takes the face away. Ooh. As you notice, you have to be careful when you do this so you don't accidentally erase something you don't want. So now with all of the lines erased, necessary, fill in this white area with the correct color. Get rid of your guidelines. And now we have a completed dovetail. One thing that I like to do as well is to soften the lines that you see here. All of those little jagged lines that we created when we used our line tool, the way to get rid of those is by using your soften edges window. So if you come up here to window and do soften edges, it'll bring up a separate window with a bar that you can drag, like a slide bar. So with everything highlighted on your component, you can grab that arrow and move it around, and as you do that, you'll see that it changes the appearance of those lines. It'll make them disappear. So I just kind of put it right about there, and I just kind of leave it there because that's around the area that I want it all the time. So now all of my dovetails look smoothed on the inside. So let's duplicate that on the other end. I'm going to turn off my component edit hide rest of model function because now I want to see the other end of the drawer. So I'm going to go into the component again and I'm going to copy it. And now I want to flip it along the green axis so it puts the tails on the other end, and then drag it back right there to the edge of the drawer. And now I have to meet the end by just erasing all of those joint lines. And as you can see, if we didn't do it this way, we would have to make the drawer or the tails on the other end of the drawer, and that would get very time consuming. Doing it this way, I was able to make all of those pins, or excuse me, all those tails on the other end just by copying it and then bringing them together and then getting rid of the joint lines between the two. Now, one thing that I didn't do whenever I was making this particular set of pins is push it back the 1/8 of an inch. I made the pins 5/8 of an inch back, but I didn't give the extra 1/8 inch. So I'm going to show you a real quick way how to fix that problem. Go into the component and then just select the surfaces that I want to move back. See, everything kind of moves in unison like that along the green axis. Then I can just type 1/8 and hit unhide. Now they are pushed back where they need to be. These are also in place, and as you can see, once we get the pins laid out, the dado that we made for the drawer bottom will be completely hidden by that particular tail.
So stop what you're doing right now and save that model. So when you come back in 2 weeks, when we go to make the pins to fit those tails, you'll be able to pick up right where you left off and you won't have to start all the way over. So a quick shout out to my patrons right up here, as well as my tool partners down below. I could not do it without you. Your support helps me immensely, so thank you very much. If you want to check out any of my past build videos or SketchUp videos, you'll find them right over there. Be sure and click the subscribe circle you see in the center and become a part of my shop. Thank you guys very much. I'll see you on the next video. Boom!